Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome to a different type of video than what I've been normally doing. I'm here with my friend and compatriot and partial homoerotic lover, Cryptofire, and we're going to do something interesting. Would you like to say hello?
Hello, everyone.
So what we're going to do is, first off, if you had to grade your knowledge of the game from 1 to 10, being 1 being dumb as shit and 10 being you are a master of this shit, where do you think you'd rank yourself?
0.
You're not even on the scale. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna show Cryptofire 10 commanders, and he's gonna rank whether he thinks they're good or not. So anything else you want to say before we start?
No, I'll just jump right into it. Let's fucking go.
First we got Kinnan, Bonder, Prodigy. For 1 green and 1 blue, you got a 2/2 human druid. So read off his abilities.
So I actually speak now? Okay.
Yes.
Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for a mana, hold on, stream credit. Add 1 mana of any type that is permanent produced. 5 green or blue. Look for top 5 cards of your library. You may put a non-human creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in random order.
So based on what you've just read and just looking at this card, from a 1 to a 10, where do you think this would sit on a power scale?
Maybe a 4?
Well, I've got news for you. This sits at like a 9.
Oh shit.
This commander is very popular, he's very powerful, and he's used in a lot of competitive formats. There exists a card called Grim Monolith, which is an expensive card, but it goes infinite with this card because it can tap to produce mana, and then with the mana that it's producing, it can just keep untapping and retapping itself. And then because of his second ability, in that color combination, it has no problem reaching that kind of mana, so you can just cycle through your deck and just pull out your best shit. And
damn, that's kind of impressive.
He gets pretty stupid. Some people, especially newer players, might look at a card like this and go, what the fuck, like, how is that useful? But you kind of understood that. So Kinnan, high power. Next card. Here we got Oloro, Ageless, Ascetic. It is a personal favorite of Nick, also known as Fblthp Manatee. So for 3, a white, blue, and a black, you got a legendary giant soldier with a 4/5. Would you like to read off his abilities?
Yeah, at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 2 life. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card and each opponent loses 1 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Oloro, Aegis, I don't know what that is. Pronounce that.
It's fine. Go ahead. Continue.
In the command zone, you gain 2 life.
So where do you think Oloro would sit on a power scale? Keep in mind, he's a very old commander at this point.
Well, if he's old, I don't know. I feel like maybe a 6.
So
I feel like he could be useful, but at the same time, like, the old's throwing me off, so I don't want to put him like way high. But
so back in the day, back in like early Commander, he was at about a 9 because he was the first commander, well, sort of the first commander to have an ability from the command zone. That later became a keyword known as Eminence. So at the time, he was really powerful. Over time, he's kind of fallen off. Now, what we need to understand about this creature, so that last line of text, right, if he's in the command zone, that second line of text, that only applies when he's on the battlefield. So most people who play Oloro will never cast him because of the 6 mana requirement. So it's pretty much, he sits in the command zone, he gains you life every turn, and you do stuff with that. As it currently stands in the game, I can't remember if he sits in the top 20 or not, but as it currently stands in the game, he himself, I would say he probably sits at about a 3 or 4. He's not as strong as he was, but he has been a staple for a long time, and that color combination enables a lot of combos that can either go infinite or just put you so far ahead of the game. And there are combos that exist with him where there's one card combos that exist, because there's cards that say when you gain life, your opponents lose life, and then there's other cards that say when your opponents lose life, you gain life, so that just loops. So he himself, not super powerful, but he is a combo enabler. So actually, yeah, I'd probably sit him at about a 4 to 5. So you weren't that far off. We got Alesha, who smiles at death. For 2 in a red, we got a 3/2 legendary human warrior. If you like to read the things.
First strike. Whenever Alesha, who smiles at death, attacks you, you pay 2.
Those are hybrid mana. So for each, you could pay a white or a black.
Okay, so you may pay 2 hybrid mana. If you do, return target creature card with 2 power or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Oh shit.
Now, where would you rank Alesha?
I mean, yeah, like from my barely playing time.
And you've played a lot of red, so you understand that part.
Yeah, from the part where it's like from the graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Like that's that for my 0 knowledge on the scale seems pretty. I'm gonna say an 8. I feel
Okay.
like that's an 8.
So, yeah, you're not totally far off. The thing that's important to note about a card like Alesha is when it comes to commander, when you're running a commander, every mana symbol on the card, except for reminder text, counts towards that card's color identity. So even though Alesha is a red card, it is a red, white, and black commander. So you can run red, white, and black cards in the deck. And the thing with that color combination, there's a lot of discard, there's a lot of sacrifice, there's a lot of stuff to get stuff in your graveyard. This card is somewhat fallen out of favor over time. They're still pretty strong, so ranking it at an 8, I wouldn't say you're that far off. I would say more a soft 7, which, like, anyone who's ever played the game knows that everyone ranks their deck or their something as 7. But I think Alesha is a true 7 in the sense of, because the stats are so little, it's very prone to removal. But the ability to recur creatures in any sort of deck is really powerful, especially if you don't have to pay life for it. And 2 mana to throw out 2 power or less creatures. You can cheat out things that can't normally attack. You can cheat out things that can become bigger once they're on the field. Like, there is a lot that you can do with that. So yeah, I'd say ranking that at a 7's pretty good.
Okay. Sweet.
So this one I was really excited to pull out because this one takes some understanding. So we got Crick, son of Yawgmoth. So those symbols next to the number, that's what's known as Phyrexian mana. So you got a legendary Phyrexian horror minion 2/2. So if you want to read the rules, and then you'll understand the mana.
Okay, so Phyrexian mana can be paid with either black mana?
Yep.
Yeah? Or 2 life. Lifelink, for each black mana and a cost, you may pay 2 life rather than pay that mana. Whenever you cast a black spell, put a 1/1 counter on this guy.
So just based on that alone, where do you think he would rank?
Shit.
I'll let it be known that black is very much about paying life for stuff, and being able to make a lot of black mana does not take a lot. You can do it pretty easily.
So, okay. cast a black spell. An 8, like a very strong 8.
I would definitely agree with the 8. The fact that, so looking at him, you would think based on his mana cost that you would want to pay him for 7. You're almost never doing that. You're essentially paying 4 mana and 6 life, which, especially in mono black decks, life is very much a resource in Commander. He's very powerful in the sense of anything with just black pips in their cost, you can basically cast for free just by paying life for it. And there's a lot of things in black that either wants you to pay life or benefits you for having low life, or you can swap life totals with people. There's stuff that gains you life back for casting things. Like, in a best case scenario, you can play almost your entire deck just with him out. With him and like a life gain spell of some kind. Because as I said, being able to make a lot of black in mana doesn't take much. There's 2 lands. There's Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, which makes everything swamps, and there's Cabal Coffers, which you tap black and tap it, or maybe it's 2 in it, I can't remember, and you make a black for each swamp you control. Being able to produce a lot of black mana is so easy, and it very much abuses his ability to get stuff. And then there's certain cards that let you play cards from out of your deck by paying life instead of paying the mana. So you could pretty much bypass your entire mana pool just by paying life for your stuff. It can get pretty stupid. All right. So yeah, definitely for Crick and for you right now, yeah, definitely hard 8. Okay. So this card takes a little bit of understanding because you would usually want to pair her with something and judge them as that, but I want to judge the card by itself. So we got Tymna the Weaver. Yeah. So you got 1 a white and a black for a 2/2 legendary human cleric. Go ahead.
Yeah. So lifelink. At the beginning of each of your post-combat main phases, you may pay X life, where X is the number of opponents that were dealt combat damage this turn. If you do, draw X cards. Partner, you can have 2 commanders if both have partner.
Yeah. So where would you rank Tymna on a scale? I'll have you know that she is a $40 card.
Okay.
I didn't even have to scroll down there. The number's right there.
Oh shit, yeah. Okay, so the pay life.
Which we just kind of went over that with Crick.
Yeah, and I said 3, but I feel like that's completely going to be changed. Now that I read it back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe, and probably put this at 7 again.
Yeah, I would basically squeeze her between a 7 and an 8, and maybe even like touch a 9. It really depends on who you pair her with, because there were a lot of creatures that came with the partner mechanic, which they then later kind of tried to fix that with other cards by making them more specific. But these first batch of partner cards, yeah, as the card said, you can pair them with any other creature that has partner. So she pairs with a lot of things that can enable everything. She's kind of similar to Oloro in the sense of her color combination, especially once she's partnered with someone else, can enable so many combos. The ability to pay life to draw cards is just as useful as paying life to cast spells in the game. Again, Commander, life's a resource. So with her, now, the only unfortunate part about her, she's limited by the amount of opponents you have. Because if you have 3 opponents and you hit each one of them with a creature, you pay 3 life, draw 3 cards. That's kind of her limit. But you pair her with other things that can either, you can either enable that or kind of benefit you from having a bunch of cards in your hand and just all stuff like that. So yeah, It's definitely, it very much varies, but she is easily between a 7 and a 9. She is crazy. We're gonna go to this card, and I'll be real with you. I fucking hate this card. I won't explain why. I'll let you figure it out. But I fucking hate this card.
My pre-guess is it'll be overpowered or just complete dog shit.
Well, so we got Muldrotha the Gravetide. So for 3, a black, a green, and a blue, you got a 6/6 legendary elemental avatar. Go ahead.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so during each of your turns, you may play a land and cast a permanent spell of each permanent type from your graveyard.
Yeah.
If a card has multiple permanent types, choose one as you play it.
So based on that alone, where do you think you would rank Muldrotha?
Jesus Christ, that fucking 10.
Okay. No.
Or am I completely opposite?
So
I'm opposite.
the reason no, you're not opposite. So not a 10. In my opinion, there's like maybe 3 or 4 commanders that are a pure 10. It's really hard to get there. Muldrotha, to me, sits at about a 7, soft 8. Only because it just like Tymna and Oloro, it enables a lot of stupid shit. Because during each of your turns, you can play a land and cast a permanent spell from each permanent type. So that means creature, enchantment, artifact, planeswalker, whatever. So what Muldrotha does is your graveyard becomes your library. And the biggest thing of why this card pisses me off is because of a little thing called Spore Frog. Spore Frog's ability is you sacrifice it to prevent all combat damage that'd be dealt this turn. You can do it every turn with Muldrotha. You can just keep cycling Spore Frog and nothing will ever damage you. You can only do it during your turn, but it's usually very specific. And because it works with lands, you can use fetch lands and play them every turn and just keep sacrificing them. Because again, you can play stuff from your graveyard. You want a lot of sacrifice things. So you can sacrifice it, you can replay it. There's an ability called Delve where you can exile things from your graveyard. It enables so many things. And because of the color combination, it doesn't take much to get to 6 mana. So in this one, you way overshot, but it is still very much a pain in the ass commander, where I would place it as a 7 and a soft 8. So
you shoot for the moon. If you miss, you fall amongst the stars.
Right? Okay. So I'm excited for this one because I'm building this one, and I want to see what you think of this, just based on the card alone. So we got Fblthp the Lost. It's 1 in a blue for a 1/1 legendary homunculus. Go ahead.
Alright, when Philip the Lost enters draw card, if it...
Philip!
Okay, hold on, Jesus Christ. I'm gonna call him Philip.
Yep. Fair.
If it entered from your library or was cast from your library, draw 2 cards instead. When he becomes the target of a spell, shuffle him into its owner's library.
Yeah. So based on that, where would you rank Fblthp?
Well, Lord.
He's a tricky one. He's a tricky one to rank, especially because he's dirt cheap too.
See, God damn it, this is throwing me off so much. See, I want to say it's a low number, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like he could be very useful if you play him right. I'll go with a 5.
Okay. So, you're not wrong about saying that he can very much be abused. So there exists an artifact called Proteus Staff, and pretty much how it works is it shuffles a creature back into your deck, and you can flip cards off the top until you get another creature, and then you can bring that creature out. Most people who play Fblthp run no other creatures in their deck. Fblthp is the only creature. Because what you can do is you can use Proteus Staff on Fblthp, throw it into your deck, because it specifically throws it to the bottom of the deck. So pretty much what happens is you go through your entire deck and you play out Fblthp. And what happens, because of how Proteus Staff reads, is you can put all these cards on the bottom of your deck in any order. Fblthp lets you stack your deck.
Hey.
Fblthp lets you stack your deck how you want. So there's no more randomness. You know what's there. You know what you can and can't play. So, in my opinion, yeah. And there's a lot of cards that can fetch out artifacts, especially in blue. So, in my opinion, I would rank Fblthp as a 9. He's very susceptible to removal. He can very easily be countered, but his second ability is when he becomes a target of a spell, he gets back into his owner's library. If you can get him and Proteus Staff out, there's a very small window of opportunity to deal with him before you can just stack your deck and have every response you ever want. You can stack it so that you can draw a spell that draws your entire deck, and then you win with something like a fucking Jace Wielder of Mysteries that if you go to draw from your library and there's no cards there, you just win. There's a lot of you win cards in blue, and Fblthp can enable a good chunk of them. So, so as a commander,
wild card.
Yes, as a commander, he is insanely underrated. So, yeah, definitely like a soft 9. Someone in the comments is probably going to give me shit for it. I don't care. It's my video. So,
yeah, it's his video.
Right?
Man,
okay.
Woman, whatever.
Person. All right. So we'll go to Kenrith the Return King, who's for 4 and a white. You got a legendary human noble 5/5. Go ahead.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You were really throwing them at me, aren't you? Okay, so red. All creatures gain trample and haste until end of turn. 1 green, put a 1/1 counter on a target creature. 2 white, target player gains 5 life. 3 blue, target player draws a card. 4 black, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under its owner's control. Jesus.
So where would you rank Kenrith based on that?
Depending on how you're playing him, clearly.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of ways to play him, yeah.
Yeah.
He's very much a toolbox commander.
I'm definitely seeing that every time I read it. I know we keep saying 7 all the time, but I feel like this has got to be a 7 card.
You're falling into the trap. Falling into the trap of everything's a 7. So,
Yeah, I know.
right? So, I wouldn't say you're that far off. He is one of the most popular 5-colored commanders, simply for the fact that he's such a toolbox card. I would also put him around there, a 7 or an 8, strictly because there's so much you can do with him. Similar to a lot of the other cards in this list, he enables a lot of stuff, especially because he's in all 5 colors. But you can fall into the trap of, how the fuck do I build this? Because when you're building 5, when you're building 5-colored decks, it goes so many ways, and he just enables all of them. Some people just play him just to have the colors available. They don't even utilize him, but you can utilize him, especially his last ability, to be able to recur creatures for 5. So yeah, I would agree with you on that. I would agree with you that he sits at about 7, soft 8. He's popular. He himself can be really strong, but yeah, there's
It all depends on like how you build around him.
Exactly, yeah. Which, in my opinion, there's not really any wrong way to. Okay. So this one is going to be interesting. So this is another one I kind of have disdain for, and I'll explain as we go. So we got Atraxa Praetors Voice. So for green, white, blue, black, you got a 4/4 legendary angel horror. Go.
Flying, Vigilance, Death Touch, Lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, proliferate. Choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there. Holy shit.
So where would you rank Atraxa based on this? She is kind of similar to Kenrith in being a very open-ended commander.
Six? 7? Somewhere in there? Or am I feel like I'm off, but I also feel like because of the different colors, it would be tricky to kind of get her out, but at the same time, I don't know.
So,
Yeah,
she's definitely...
6 or... High 6, low 7. I'm gonna go there.
So, I would put her in the same position as Kenrith. Probably... You know what? No. She is, in my opinion, she is a hard 8. Because...
Okay.
So, Proliferate is a really fun ability. Because it reads Choose, it bypasses things like Hexproof, Shroud, Ward, stuff like that. So Proliferate, it doesn't care what kind of counters, it's any counters. Be it, +1/+1 counters, poison counters, loyalty counters on planeswalkers, anything. The thing about her color combination is it enables so many different play styles. And again, she's another creature. There's not really any wrong way to build her. A lot of people run what's called Atraxa Super Friends, and the Super Friends are just all planeswalkers. Now, a little side to this. She is in the top 20 most popular commanders. Where do you think she sits on that? Where do you think she sits on that list? To be clear, Kenrith sits in that list too, but where do you think Atraxa sits in that list?
I'm gonna say maybe 10.
She is number 1.
No way.
She is the number 1 most popular commander of all time.
Holy shit.
And she came out 2016. Commander 2016. So she's been out for a good 8 years now. Yeah.
Damn.
And on EDH Rec, she is the most popular commander.
That's impressive.
It's ridiculous. Okay. So second last, we got this guy, which is interesting, and well, we'll tackle it again. So we got Thraximundar.
Yeah.
So for 4 blue, black, red, we got a 6/6 legendary zombie assassin. Go ahead.
Haste. Whenever Thraximundar attacks, defending player sacrifices a creature. Whenever a player sacrifices a creature, you may put a 1/1 counter on Thraximundar.
So where do you think you would rank Thraximundar?
Oh dear lord. Nine?
No, he's definitely more of a 5.
Oh,
Okay. So he came out around the same time as Oloro. He came in the same deck as Nekusar, which you've seen that deck. But he wasn't the main commander. He was one of the side commanders. 7 mana is a lot for a creature, especially in modern Magic.
Yeah.
So, and Grixis is not great at ramping. Like, any deck that doesn't have green can be with ramping. So, yeah, so 7 mana for a 6/6 haster. If you can get him there, sure. But by that point, there's been so much happening in the game people hold up responses. They'll have counter spells, they'll have kill spells, they'll have stuff like that. So by the time you even get him out and go to your combat, or not even that, someone could have countered him on cast, or if you go to combat, someone just kills him off the board. And that like the ability's good, but it would be much better on a creature that's maybe half that cost and smaller. Like the 6/6 is kind of redundant. So Thraximundar very much like a 5 or a 4 maybe. He probably ranks the lowest on this list. Okay.
Oh shit.
We'll go to our last one, which I'm very much a fan of this card because it's kind of funny. So you got Brion Stoutarm. He's 2, a red and a white. You got a 4/4 giant warrior. Go ahead.
Lifelink. Red.
Tap.
Reverse.
Tap.
Right. Red. Tap. Sacrifice another creature. Brion Stoutarm deals damage equal to the sacrifice creature's power to target player or planeswalker.
Yeah. Well, no, for him it's just player.
Okay. Damn.
So where do you think Brion Stoutarm would rank?
Jesus, I don't know. Man.
Pretty much the whole basis around him is he's literally throwing creatures at your opponents. It's fucking hilarious.
Okay. Let's go number 7.
So, yeah, I'd place him there. Maybe like a 7, soft 8. About a 7 or a 6. Again, a 4-mana 4/4 doesn't take much to get out. Lifelink is pretty useful because it's not just combat damage, so whatever damage he's dealing, you gain that life back. But you can have huge, because the thing is, when it's counting the creature's power, it's counting it for when it's on the battlefield. So if you got something that has a bunch of counters on it and you whip it with Brion, that's its power that it's dealing to the player. And then you gain that life back. You can do stuff with the life gain. 6 or 7 is pretty good with him. The fact that you have to tap him to do it is because it kind of puts him out of commission for that turn afterwards. But you usually want to do that on someone else's turn. And the fact that he does it to a player is kind of limiting because sometimes you might want to do that to a creature. But being able to take a huge creature that may be either on its way out, like someone might be trying to kill it, or it's just kind of sitting there doing nothing, or someone put an enchantment on it that rendered it useless, you could just tap Brion, throw it at the opponent, and make use of it. And then, like in red and white, there are ways to get creatures back from the graveyard, but it's usually with Brion, it's just, I just want to deal as much damage as possible. Fuck you. Like...
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah.
Playing that way.
Right. So yeah, in that sense, yeah, he's about a 6 or 7. So you weren't that far off. So in terms of your guesses with all this, how do you think you did based on being very new to the game?
I would feel like it's kind of on par.
Yeah.
If you just kind of like averaged it out, but. I mean, room for improvement, but I'll learn eventually.
But like,
take some time.
But what is your kind of takeaway from all of this, like just for the game in general?
Basically, I'm feeling like you definitely gotta learn how, excuse me, how everything works. But once you learn that, you can kind of figure out, all right, this works, this doesn't, this is strong, this isn't.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you kind of gotta be kind of like a picky, sort of, right?
In a sense, yeah.
Any sense?
No, it does.
Yeah.
And especially with Commander...
Trial and error, that's what I was looking
Yes.
for.
And especially with Commander, the good thing about a lot of these cards and legendary creatures especially is you can look at a card like this, like Brion or Atraxa, and think, how am I going to build around this? How am I going to abuse this ability or make it so my deck runs off of that ability? And I think that's part of what I think that's one of the coolest things about the game is it's so open-ended that you can do anything and everything. So
yeah, like there are endless possibilities with deck building. I have learned slowly over my time.
Yeah, for sure.
There's very few.
No, exactly. No, you kind of hit the nail on the head there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think if we're satisfied with that, I think we'll wrap it up. And
I'm good with that.
do you have any closing thoughts or anything else you want to say?
God, I got no clue.
We'll roll with that. Perfect. Sounds great.
Works for me.